Clinton Miner here from Sage Sawtooth Bushcraft. We have had a lot of people buy one of our, what we call our Viking Axes. And this last weekend I had a very nice lady purchase one of the gull wing or goose wing axes and ask me why these axes are shaped like they are. What we call a bearded axe. Both of these are examples of bearded axes, and these are the two models that we currently sell. And I thought I would just make a little video and describe a little bit about them, where this concept comes from, and what the purpose of it is. I brought along some other axes to compare. I'm going to pull out, I think it's a 1943 U.S. Army issue hatchet that would have been from, it's actually 1944 Army issue hatchet that would have been a typical American style axe or hatchet head with very little beard on it, and kind of talk a little bit about the difference between these. One of the main differences is the amount of iron or steel that goes into making one of these compared to one of these. And if you look at this, what we've done here, we've cut out a whole bunch of additional iron, giving a substantially larger cutting surface with much less metal involved. If I had taken and built this cutting surface similar to this cutting surface, you can see that there would have been almost twice as much, very close to twice as much iron involved in that. And at a time frame in the days of the Vikings, and these are called Dane axes, Viking axes. In the days of those Vikings, iron was very precious, it was very dear, and because of that, the ability to create something that did the same job with less of that iron was very important. So this is the main reason for this, at least as far as I understand historically, was the fact that you could make a very large cutting surface with less iron. Secondary purpose for that, or secondary value of that, is this was not only a tool for woodland use, but it was also a tool for war. And if I'm having to carry this all day, and also if I'm having to swing this all day, to be able to cut some of that iron out, still have a heavy enough head that I've got some inertia, some momentum going, but I don't have to worry about that additional weight, gives me a huge advantage in using that. That's one of the reasons for that. So again, if you look at this, if I hold these as I'm holding these, this axe is actually heavier than this axe. And that is because of just the difference in the amount of iron involved. So, or iron turned to steel involved. The next thing I'll point out is that this also, as a weapon of war, was used not only for chopping, but provided me with a hooking action, and especially with the bigger, larger axes that they use like these, with 4 or 5 foot long handles and an axe at a head that was maybe twice this large, I could reach out with this and hook behind someone's shield, pull the shield out of the way, and get to them. So it became a multi-purpose axe. This one also has a flat surface on the back of that. That is for hammering, whether it's hammering as I'm making something out of wood or out of putting nails in. That's called a pull on an axe. The back of these, when there's an actual flat surface, is called a pull axe. Whereas this one, and this is the other model that we sell, is rounded and is more like what we would consider a tomahawk. That pull axe creates another tool that I can use, also something to use in war, so that if I'm trying to disable or break through something, I've got that as well without breaking up my cutting surface. That's another reason that these are shaped the way they are. Now, another reason that is very, very important when it comes to woodworking is these became multi-tools. They are not simply for chopping wood, they're also for carving wood. And now I can take this and use it, either one of these, like an adze. I can shave with it, I can do some fine detail work with that, and that provides me with just another way of using this axe. And that's a very purposeful thing to be able to do that, and especially in what we do, what we call bushcrafting. This then becomes a very useful tool. Another thing you can use this for is scraping hides, and if you look at that, I can scrape hides with this too, but much more awkward in its use as compared with the bearded axe. So that gives me something very useful to use with multiple different ways of doing that. If I want to scrape off bark from a willow to make a better piece of wood, if I want to simply shave down some wood to a different dimension, if I want to make shavings to start a fire, or if I want to simply make a feather stick, I can use this tool in that way without with a lot of dexterity and without having to take this apart. That's another reason for that. So just some really excellent reasons for the shape of this hatchet, this axe, and not a lot of difference between these. When I talk about a bearded axe, this bottom portion, I couldn't do that again in a million years. This bottom portion here is the beard. Instead of coming out and just being like this hatchet that has almost no beard, I have used a lot less metal. If you look at those are very similar in size. In fact, I get a little more edge out of this one than I do out of this one, and yet I've used a lot less metal. When I compare these, it's a huge difference as far as the weight. That's another reason. So when we deal with these types of tools, these Scandinavian, Danish, Viking, however you want to describe that, axes, the Germanic companies or countries also came with these, created this this beard, and these very extensive beards, like I said, are sometimes called goose wing or gull wing because they look like a wing in flight. All of those things create a whole lot of additional value to this axe without additional weight and with a substantial amount of savings in that iron. And that's why we have these Viking axes, besides the fact they look incredibly cool. So we sell these through Sage Sawtooth Bushcraft. They are on our online store. We also sell them at the events that we go to. They have been amazingly popular this year, and I thought I'd go ahead and share that with you. Remember, when you're looking at these, to give me the thumbs up there, give me that like, and if you haven't already done so, subscribe. And remember that when you have tools like this that you can do multiple things, you're more prepared than when you don't. And as we say here at Sage Sawtooth Bushcraft, if you're prepared, you're never really lost. Thank you.